Hi there, welcome to another episode of How to Start a Board Game Company. I'm Jay Cormier from Off the Page Games. Now, I think I said this once in one of my episodes. Let me just say it again here. The title, the name of this series is weirdly named How to Start a Board Game Company because it I don't want to come across that I'm the know-it-all and this is how you do it. It probably should be called How I Started a Board Game Company, but putting that aside, let's continue with this week's episode, which is a doozy. This one is fantastic. It is all about marketing for your board games on all the different channels that you have available to you. I actually have a special guest that I'm going to bring in and chat with, Andrew Lowen, and let's do that right now because I think you are all going to enjoy it. All right, so here I am with Andrew. Andrew, thanks so much for taking the time to be on the show here.
My pleasure, Jay.
Awesome. Okay, so as you might know, because we chatted a teeny bit already, I don't know much about marketing. I thought I did. I thought marketing is easy. Anybody can do marketing. It's just telling people about your game. But apparently, there's more to it than that. So, Andrew, why don't you start by telling us a little bit who you are and a little bit about your background so we understand your credentials.
There you go. Yeah. So I run a digital marketing agency in San Diego, California called Next Level Web. I've got clients on 3 continents. I've um, helped social media pages go from 10,000 to 500,000 fans. I've helped board game companies raise over 500,000 on Kickstarter. And I've worked with at least 400 clients in the last 10 years in what I feel like is 399 different industries. And so my first board game client was actually in 2011. I built a website for a company called Constitution Quest. They are a US-based board game that teaches people about the Constitution.
Oh,
Yeah, still it's on like its 20th printing or something, so they're doing pretty well. And hilariously enough, they're still using the website I built them. I rebuilt their site in 2014, and that's the one they've got. So,
hey, man.
um, yeah,
It's working for them, I guess.
yeah. So, and for the last 3.5 years, I've been um, I don't know if I'd call myself a hobbyist, because I take it too seriously, but a board game designer. And
Oh, cool.
so I have a board game design that I've been working on for the last 3.5 years, and it's called Deliverance. It's a Christian fantasy dungeon crawl, that is a quite a marketing conundrum in and of itself.
I can
And
imagine.
so yeah, so we built. I've gone completely. I spent $21 on ads, but in the last 3.5 years. But overall, we've gone from zero to over 2,000 people on our email list, and Facebook group is at almost 1,000, completely organically. So
That's wow. That's
yeah.
so we got we're talking to the right person. So this is fantastic.
Well, one of the things I learned in marketing is that if you can do it once, it doesn't mean you can do it again. It means
Ah,
that, it worked at one time. It's hilarious because I feel like every business, even if we're both in the same industry, it's such a different puzzle because you have different assets, you have different interest groups and that kind of thing. And I think that really 85% of marketing is the same. It's applying solid fundamentals, and then that extra 15% is knowing your product really well and having a great product that you know how to talk about. And that's why a marketing company doesn't always do the best for your game because, the things that make your game really, really sweet to the right people, you know that as the designer, right?
interesting. Now,
Hopefully you know that from playtesting.
yes, 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 yes. Now, I want to preface this entire chat by saying that the reason why you're on the show is because I listened to a two-part interview with you and Gabe on the Board Game Design Lab podcast and thought it was fantastic amount of information and came at such a perfect time for me because it's literally all the things I'm trying to do right now and have been doing for a little while. So I don't want to double dip and have you repeat things that you said in there necessarily because I think everyone should go and check that out and I'll put the link to that podcast in this YouTube video so you can for those that want to know more can maybe start there and then come back and listen to this whatever you want. So one thing I thought I'd start with is I want to review some of the things I've been doing, and maybe you can chime in, kind of like a little consultant as far as like, is that a good thing I've done? Is there ways I could have leveraged that more for advice for future people watching this in the future,
Yeah.
and they're starting their company of like, oh, that was good, maybe you should have started that earlier or whatever. And again, I know this is all just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, and nothing's the same for any, as you said already, as for any two companies
Yeah.
or board games. So
So
some random, yeah,
I'll say
yeah.
you sent me kind of a rough list of things that you had been doing, and I separated them into like seven different parts. And so I'll offer my pithy commentary every, every so often.
Sure. All right.
But you go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sure. I mean, so one thing I've been doing is this series, and I think this series is slightly a marketing angle in the sense that I get to talk about my game every week, and it does motivate me to kind of keep doing things and making sure I have things to talk about. And I know the audience is super niche. Like I'm getting like 100 views per video per week,
Mhm.
which is I know not great, but maybe over time and over the years, maybe like kind of like Stagmeyer's blog, it becomes a
Yep.
resource for people, and it'll just kind of keep growing. It'll help more my brand of off the page than necessarily this specific first game out of the gate.
Right. And you know what it does is it helps you articulate yourself better. For me, I notice when I listen to myself, I use ums, I use ahs, I use, I hate, I was listening to my Board Game Design Lab podcast over, and I was cringing every time I said that, but it just makes you a better speaker. And I think that's awesome. And another thing I'll say is that the web series you're doing, I've actually watched about a third of them.
Wow.
What are you at, like 27 right now or
Yeah,
something? Okay, there
that's
you
right.
go. So I think I've watched, actually maybe third to a half, between 10 and 15. But
Nice.
yeah, so what I think this does very well is maybe you get 100 views a week per video, but it's the small group of people that are watching you, they are appreciating you for what you're doing. And even if it's a niche thing, you've got people that may very well back your game because they like you. And I think branding you is a smart idea. Like you
Oh,
said, the
that's good. Yeah.
Stegmeyer approach. So I personally love it.
Oh, fantastic. What else have I been doing? I have a website, but it's kind of more of a landing page. I have a friend that's produced this for me, created for me, and I know I have some desires to make it better. I actually have a meeting with him later this week, but at least I have it so that it grabs email, and I don't really have much of an offer. I know when I did the Fail Faster website, I created I think a 16-page ebook on how to create your own sales sheet,
Uh-huh.
and that really generated a lot more traffic to come to the site, sign up for newsletter, and be aware of that. But for this, I don't really have um, any. I'm currently giving out a decoder, which is pretty goofy. It's on brand for the mind management game because it's very spy-like. So you
Mhm.
get a decoder that is relevant and needed to actually unlock some secrets in the game, and even in the campaign, there's going to be secrets that you need that decoder for. But
That's
nobody
awesome.
knows that. It's awesome, but nobody knows it, so it's not really a draw.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that the most important thing is that you have a landing page, just a place that you can send somebody that they can on their own drop their email address into a system and they'll get your newsletter or whatever information about the game, that kind of thing. That is even the most basic, awful looking, non-responsive website is going to do a good job at capturing an email if you set it up to do that, you integrate MailChimp or whatever you use.
Exactly.
Um, and that's going to be fine for somebody that you meet at a convention or that you tell about your game on social media or that finds out about it and wants to get more information. They will go there, and despite how terrible it may look, they are motivated by something else. They're not motivated by what the website looks like. They're motivated by what they've heard about it, or they know you personally and they want to follow you, and that was the website you gave them, or that kind of thing. And then really, kind of that next level is a landing page that converts the people in the middle really well. When I say the middle, I mean you've got people on one end of a continuum that will never buy your thing no matter how much
Right.
you want them to. And so you should never market to those people. And then you've got the people on the other side that will buy your thing no matter what. Like hopefully your mom will buy your thing just because she loves you. But then there's this group in the middle that will back the game if it's a good game, will back the game if it answers, if you're, will sign up for your email list if it answers, if the website answers questions that they had and that sort of thing. And so the more you can improve that landing page, the better it is. But I've built several thousand people on my email list with a landing page that's so out of date. It's crazy.
Now, um, I learned something from the podcast that you had, and it made me a, slightly scared, but I don't think scared enough because I think I'm okay. But I haven't been really talking to my mailing list yet, and so it hasn't grown that much yet. Even though I've been at a bunch of conventions and whatnot, I haven't had an
Mhm.
opportunity to do lengthy demos besides Shucks. And I got a bunch of signups at Shucks, but other than that, it's just been like one or two demos here or there in corners.
Mhm.
So um, the thing I learned from the interview you had with Gabe was that you have to communicate with them, and I don't know what the frequency is, maybe monthly when you're this far out, to make sure that they remember, oh right, this is a thing that I signed up for, and kind of keep the fires burning a little bit so that they don't um, at the very 3, 6, 8 months later say, what the heck is this? I never signed up for this. So that was
Right.
cool. I love you talking about that. Now what can I talk about? Do I just kind of start sharing a bunch of some of the art? Because I now have all the art, so I could probably just put that out there. Hey, check out this new art, and just kind of be excited about it. Like, this is so cool. I can't wait. Thanks for joining. Thanks for subscribing, and
Yeah,
see you in a couple months.
that's a great kind of a great topic. We didn't really cover, what should you be sharing with, to keep people engaged. And I actually had a conversation today with somebody in with a small publisher about this very subject. We were talking about how important it was to keep your email list engaged. And when I say engaged, what I mean is remind them about you, give them more information that they can look at, give them something to chew on, that kind of thing. And it gets more complicated as you grow as a company, but when you have one game that you want to tell people about, give them something. I believe monthly is totally fine, and you don't need to give them a massive newsletter if you don't have a massive amount of things to share. If it's just one thing, I mean, even about your game and you as a company man, you can even link these videos that you're doing, once
True.
per month. I mean, you've got the latest one if they're interested. I did that, with Deliverance. They're all interested in the game, but I had these podcasts that I did. I've got videos that I've done with other people,
Right.
and I think that they actually appreciate that because a lot of people are fans of me, and I know that a lot of your people are fans of you, and they'll appreciate seeing that. They may skip through a little bit, or they may, watch the whole thing like a religious zealot. But it's gonna at least be some content that they have the choice to watch or skip, and it's not going to be annoying if they wanted to skip it. It's super easy. Just scroll down, right?
Right. Right. Right.
So what we talked about in the conversation I had today, we touched on something that is kind of in a way, I feel like a lot of the board game industry has drawn a conclusion, blindly, that I think is a little dangerous. Um, but it's the conclusion of you can share everything about your game. It doesn't matter. People aren't going to copy your idea. I personally believe that people would love to copy ideas, and they do all the time. I mean, how did we end up with Armageddon and Deep Impact? Both were terrible, but anyway. Um, so you want to also share, of course, your art. And the question in my conversation earlier today came down to components. Like, do you share the components, the rules, how the game plays? Do you do how to play video, that kind of thing? And when it's a prototype and you're not ready to go to Kickstarter at all, and you know, that kind of thing. The fear
Mm.
is that, maybe a big company could find what it is that you're doing, and or maybe somebody that's further behind than you, maybe they hustle really quick so they get to Kickstarter before you or whatever.
I have no
Um,
fear of that.
yeah,
So
it really, you
yeah.
can't have fear of that. Um,
I find that's a big indicator of a newbie. Not that there's anything wrong with being a newbie, but a lot of new people in the industry, whether designers or publishers, are super new in the industry of board games in general. That's one of the very first things people ask me. They're like, "How do you protect your ideas? How do you make sure no one steals your ideas?" It's funny.
Hmm.
It's always in the top 2 or 3 questions anybody asks me if they find out I'm a board game designer.
Yeah.
Or publisher, and I'm like, wow, that's so funny that that's like the first thing that pops up to so many people. It's
Yeah.
wild, but it's just,
Yeah.
and for those that are watching or listening, that's like, it's just the board game industry A is so tiny and so small and so together. Everybody knows everybody in one way or another. That the word would get out that that publisher's not doing some great things. Let's avoid that publisher or that designer, whatever. It would just, it just, I just don't know of any examples of it ever happening in the last 10 years. Before
Yeah.
that, or before that, I just don't know of any example of it happening.
Yeah, the only things I can really think of are, well, on a somewhat regular basis, we have things like, oh, I'm doing a World War II game. It's like, oh, another company did a World War II game. That's like, all right, well, mine's a Roll and Write and his is a, Euro or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, so I think that for me, the one bit that I will say you may not be ready to reveal your game is when the game this week is a euro and then next week it has an auction mechanism and then the
right.
next month it's like a roll and write, euro, I don't know,
Yeah, that's a good
whatever.
call. Like when your
So,
game is, I call it a gamma. Like alpha is when you're changing it all the time. Beta is when you kind of know the game, but you're iterating so much that there's small things tweaking all the time. And then gamma is when you would pitch it to a publisher, and
right.
even though it'll change after that, develop further and whatnot, but it's pretty locked as far as the core concepts.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, my game is a 3.5 year monster thus far, and I went, we'll say, public with it probably about a year and a half ago, just because I felt like it was ready. And even
Nice.
though I'm sure some big publisher could have probably smashed me in the last year and a half, it's something where I felt it was ready. And in the end, I think it's really about execution. You can have a really impressive looking thing, but man, board gamers, they will sniff out the rule book. They'll make sure that your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, and the execution is what is really gonna like move the needle. Of course,
Yeah.
having a dedicated group of hardcore fans and execution, but um, both of which
Yeah.
are independent of somebody stealing your idea.
I think I've heard this feedback from other people, and I think you and I are actually doing it wrong in the sense that this will be your first Kickstarter that you're running
Yeah,
as a
actually,
board game publisher.
well, I'll be giving my game to a publisher. So I'm doing all the
Wow.
art and everything like that, and I have
You have it already
I'm doing
signed up,
everything
or
backwards. No, but I have several publishers that are just like
I
chomping at the
see.
bit, and one offered me a deal already, but
Cool.
we're gonna be,
Negotiating.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sure.
exactly. So
Okay,
that's
okay,
this
you're
month
doing it
for
right.
me.
You're doing it right. I'm doing it wrong. And what I mean by that is a lot of people say that if you're going to try to become a publisher and Kickstarters, you're going to be your way of doing it. You should start out with a somewhat smaller
Mhm.
project to kind of build a base and, prove that you can do things and then move out from there. So from
Yep.
that perspective, I'm doing a pretty big game in the sense that it has legacy-esque components to it and
Mhm.
secret packages and one. So in that way, it's going to be a big game. I'm getting gamer trays involved, and they're going to have their own, cool compartments and whatnot and packages. So that is bad. But I guess on the good side, I've had many games that have been on Kickstarter that I've designed that other publishers have done, and I ran my own Kickstarter with Fail Faster earlier this past year. So I, I'm doing it. Well, I'm doing what I'm doing, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? It's funny because for the first, we'll say 3 years of Deliverance, I was intending to be my own publisher and start a business. And I think that the most important thing about this whole shebang is that you need to be ready to start a business. And I believe you're treating it like a business. You're being really consistent and that kind of thing. And one of the biggest mistakes I see from people that are like, that come to me and say, "Hey, I need Facebook ads. My campaign is 7 days away." It's like, all right. They feel like, oh, well, I feel like when I just launch the game, if it blows up and it makes $1 million, then I'll look into manufacturing quotes. And they say things like that. It's like,
Wow.
I mean, I've heard that more times than you can count, and I very kindly tell them they're not quite ready, and they listen to me some of the time, but
That's
it's
wild.
it's really common. And so the most important thing I think you know, I wanted to maybe talk about this later, but we can talk about it now about taking yourself seriously as a
Mm,
company. I think there are so few people that take themselves seriously as a company and say that, you know, even if it is their first project, like I mean, I'm trying to think of the company's name that did Tainted Grail, and um, they basically own the month of December when it comes to
mhm.
Kickstarter right now, you know. They anyway, I'm sure that you guys will know that are watching the video, but that company started also the company that did Oathsworn Into the Deepwood
Yeah.
raised several million dollars.
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
was their first project.
Wow.
It's a big project. They were prepared for it. They were serious. They took, they did what they needed to do. They had planned and they planned their marketing and all of that. And they didn't start, from square one. So I think it's really possible to do it, and really possible to do it well and make a huge splash.
Let's do
You
it.
know?
Let's do it.
Yes. And one other
Okay.
thing
Yes,
I'll
please.
say is that Jamie Stegmaier wrote on his blog, you should do what you're passionate about. If you are equally passionate about a big project and a small project, yeah, maybe do the small project first and, get your kinks out there. But, the big project is what I think is like starts a company. You don't become a company with an 18 card game unless it's Love Letter, right? Which
Right.
the guy spent $125,000 developing this 18 card game,
Wow.
So that's what I heard. That's what he said at least.
Wow.
Um, and so it's you know, anyway, I'll just
Yeah, I get
leave
you.
it
I
at
get you.
that. Do what you're passionate about.
That's fair. That's fair. And obviously, I'm very passionate about this. And yes, I have been taking it very seriously and being very consistent and everything, getting everything on the books and getting all the legal stuff done. So yeah, that's great. Let's move into now things I've been doing is a lot of social media. So obviously, I have the big three. I don't know if I should be doing more than the big three. I'm over 40, so I don't know if there is more than three social media platforms.
I don't think you're allowed to do more than three. I think there's a limit. You missed the millennial cutoff
Oh
by
my
like
God.
2 years.
It's funny how like people at a certain age, Facebook's their main one, and then you get a bit younger, and then Twitter's their thing, and if you get a bit younger, it's Instagram. I don't
Yeah.
know if there's something below that. TikTok, I'm not sure, is lower than that, but I do those three and
Yeah.
have accounts with my brand off the page games on each of those. Instagram's the newest one because again, I'm over 40, so I don't know how it works. I do, but I don't go on it very often. So I'm forced myself to try to add more content there. And uh, I know that from the little I know is that I know that you shouldn't just copy and paste your messages and put them on those three different platforms.
Right.
Um, but should you actually make an effort to do totally different information or content to each of these streams, or is it if I have a new piece of art, can I share it on all three and just put the messaging different? What do you think?
Yeah. The answer is yes to everything. I mean, so so the first thing I guess is bandwidth is probably the most important thing that I think of. As a business owner, you have only a certain amount of bandwidth you can afford to devote to the various tasks that you want to actually make progress.
So
And
true.
so for me, I've actually decided myself, I'm going to do emails and I'm going to do Facebook. And I'm not going to worry about Twitter and I'm not going to worry about Instagram. It's a decision I've made because I just don't have the time to maintain all of this,
You should
And
hire a digital marketing company to do this for you.
I know, actually, if you know anybody, then please let me know. Actually, what's funny is I actually, for the most part, refuse to do anyone's social media. I'll do ads on social media, but as an agency, it is really difficult because it takes so much. I mean, you have to have like just send me the pictures every day or every week or whatever it is, and then it's kind of a pain in the neck. Anytime that I've ever seen social media done, meaning an agency that does social media is being paid to do social media for some other company, it's never
Yeah,
been return on investment positive. It's always been a negative return on investment.
because it sounds so corporate or copy and paste, and it's not personal, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many reasons. But in general, the larger companies that do social media, or rather that pay an agency for social media, they're not paying for return on investment. They're paying to either engage their existing customers or to look
Mm,
good to the outsiders that want to spy on them or, things like that.
wow.
Um, yeah, so it's funny because I, as a marketing agency, don't really update my social media very much because my clients aren't there. So why would I worry? I mean, most of my clients are, 40 to 65, successful, not interested at all in any kind of social media. And, those are the people with the money to pay me and the desire to pay me for the services that I perform most often. And so it's just something that if I grow as a company, we have several employees, but maybe we'll keep growing and then I'll make it somebody's job description to keep our social media updated, but it's
Right.
just not like a super high priority to the core of the operation, For a board game company, totally is, but
Yes. What about now for board games specifically? What about things like the Facebook groups? Because there's like a bajillion Facebook groups that are dedicated to various board
Mhm.
gaming reasons and things. To what degree? Now I know, like the fine line here is spam and being annoying, and a lot of groups have specific rules what you can and can't do. So I appreciate that and I like that. I don't want to get all spammy, but I'm trying to find ways because some groups say, yeah, we want you to tell us about your upcoming Kickstarters
Right.
because that's what we're here for. We want to know about it. And others
Mhm.
are like, don't tell us about your Kickstarter. So
Yeah.
that I get. I'm not going to be put. So, anyways, what can I do, or anybody in this position where there's all these groups and it looks like people want to know information? How can I do things that aren't spammy? Is it by asking questions, engaging them, showing art again? Is it always lead back to just sharing art?
The first thing I would say is don't put a link in your main post. So
I
if
heard
you,
that. That's interesting. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, from
and
your interview, of course. Yes.
hmm well, sometimes people, in fact, actually, I've gotten into conversations online after the interview about how Facebook suppresses links, and they haven't said anything about that they suppress links, meaning that, if you put a link in a post that fewer people will see it, fewer people will like it as a result, and that kind of thing, and that just, of course, kills your link. I don't believe that's true. What I believe is that because my own behavior as a consumer and then the social media consumer, we don't like being marketed to. We don't like, I mean, there are billboards everywhere. You see probably 100 ads a day for various things. I'm looking at like
Minimum. Yeah.
50 of them for various games right now, right behind you. But,
Yeah.
I see Belfort, I see The Godfather, also
Yeah.
junk art right there. Wonder who made those games. Um, but I, as a consumer, tend to just block that out. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I don't want to be advertised to. So as um, I can't remember what book it was that I read a long time ago that talks about the crocodile brain. It protects us and prevents us from having to use our neocortex and reason. So advertisements are stopped by that crocodile brain before, so that in essence, we say, that's not important, is what the crocodile brain says. That's important.
Interesting.
That's not important. I should eat that. I should run from that. That's what the crocodile brain does. And it blocks ads. So in order to make it through the crocodile brain, you have to have a really great or so you can't do one of those things like put a link in your Facebook post that makes me know whatever this is about, he just wants to, get me to click that.
Cram it down. Yeah, exactly.
So
So, and I believe what you said in your interview was then wait till somebody comments on it, and then assuming they comment favorably, and then respond saying, "Thanks for your enthusiasm. If you want to know more, check out here." And then you provide the link, and then
right.
that'll be now a short form due to their algorithms. It'll be part of the post going forward. Your link as a comment to reply.
Right.
I
Yeah.
listened. I
So
listened to the whole thing, man. It was
there
great.
you go. That's awesome. Yeah, that's my hack right now. It may change a month from now or a year from now, but that's an excellent way to do it. There will be people that want to know more information. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you think about for every person that likes a comment or likes a post, there are probably 5 to 10 times that many people that saw it. And, if you look at how many people, your organic reach,
Yeah.
allegedly so many people saw your post, they may have just scrolled right past it, and a certain percentage like it or whatever. So the comment section, you have 5 to 10 times as many people that actually like your comment or like a comment are going to see it. So when you reply and it's just not spammy. If you post a piece of art and then a comment or whatever, it seems like it's more fun to engage with because you're not just trying to sell me. And what I
Hmm.
feel like you're doing when you reply and say, hey, thank you for, let's say I'm like, oh, that art's beautiful, on the subject of art, which is, of course, always a needle mover for people in the board game
Yeah.
space. I feel like when you respond to my comment saying, "Hey, yeah, thank you very much. If you would like more information, you can go here." I
Yep.
feel like you're helping me. You're not trying to sell me. I
That's
mean,
great.
not on purpose, but it's like I believe marketing, we want to help people find, as a marketer, it's really about, being honest and maintaining a level of care about those people that you're sharing with. I feel like marketing is more relationship driven than anything, It kind of
Wow.
um, yeah,
That's such
so
a, it's such a great perspective because it so often feels on this side of the campaign sleazy and like you're trying to, yeah, and not because I am or I'm really it's just I'm honestly, like you're saying, trying to get the word out there, and I'm trying to do it in a way that respects everybody. So these are some great tips to make me feel more confident about saying the messages about how
mhm.
much I'm passionate about this game, and here it is, and here's the art, or what have you. Now, I wanted to share another thing that I thought was interesting. There's a game called Jurassic Parts
Uh-huh.
that's coming out. I don't not affiliated, don't even know who's doing it, but I saw in a group, a Facebook group, and they pointed out something that I thought they did well and something that didn't do well, and here you chime in on this matter. So they shared art, and it was of their characters, and they had a question. They say which something like which character do you like the most or which resonates most, which do you something like that. So it was
Mhm.
great, and people were responding, I like this person, this one sounds really, I like the art in this one, and it was great. And I
Uh-huh.
think that's the great thing. And the thing that I don't think was so great was I saw that exact same wording, exact same phrasing, exact same pictures posted in about 5 different Facebook
Yeah.
groups. And
Yep.
then it made me feel like, okay, that's put a bit more effort
Mhm.
into that part would have been really great.
Right. I've done a lot of this, and so the first thing, what they did well, you're right, absolutely so valuable to put a question. So if you make your post really long and put a question, nobody's going to really see the question, and there's just going to be so much information in the post to begin with that they may not even read the post. It's kind of like you'll look at a video, you'll mouse over the video, and if it's like, 1 minute or a minute and a half, you'll just be like, all right, I'm 30 seconds in, I've got 40 seconds to go, I'll watch it. But if it was 2.5 minutes, you'll mouse over and be like, oh my gosh, I've got 2 minutes to go. Pause it, or you're out,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Or skip through it or
And I think
whatever.
Jurassic Park literally was 2 lines. It was perfect.
Hmm.
It was like,
Yeah.
check out this new art for these characters. Which one do you like the most? And that was it. It
Yep.
was like, wow, solid. But
Yeah.
repeating it in all these different
Right.
groups, it's like, ugh.
So one of the mistakes, I think that's a big mistake. Not a massive,
No, 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 of course not.
sink your ship type mistake, but it's one of those things that Facebook will tell you how many groups, if you're a part of all these board game groups, which there's a lot of crossover, Board Game Spotlight, the board game group, whatever it is, there are people that are member of both groups, and if you post the same thing to 5 groups at the same time, or even in the same day, post to 5 things, people at the end of the day are going to still see that you posted to 5 different groups the very same text. And it's a little bit, in a way, I feel like it's Facebook shaming people. I've done this myself, and I have felt shamed when others are like, yeah, dude, you posted this in another group, right? It's like, yeah, but now I feel stupid.
Yeah.
So the way to overcome that, number one, you can spend time thinking about how to write for a particular group. And for some posts, that's totally cool. I'll give you an example. So for
Mhm.
Deliverance, I have the board game crowd, and if you will, there's so much crossover, but like the Christian nerd crowd is another kind of market, right? And maybe they're mainly video gamers, but there's a particular group. It's called Geeks Under Grace Community. It's about 20,000 people or so, and there's a little bit of crossover between board game groups, but it's very unique, and it's a really good farm for me, I guess, if that makes sense, for new people. And when I do it right, I get a ton of people, wanting to join my Facebook group or my email list and that kind of thing, wanting more information. But the way that I would write for that particular group is specific to those people and their interests. Whereas,
Right.
let's say like the 5 or 10 board game groups, I could write the exact same thing and it would be okay. As far as, let's say, if I chose the board game group and wrote the same thing, and then board game spotlight, I could write the same thing and it would work. Although if you paste to like 10 groups, it again, you're gonna get found out, right? What I've learned to do instead is to post to one group one day and then post the same thing if I want. I can go back, search my name up, copy paste it to the next group the next day, and it'll never do that. And you'll get engagement on both posts. So, because even if there's a lot of crossover between groups, different people are going to see it on, at different times. And, so, um,
That's awesome. And I have one more question about posting and whatnot, and then we'll move off of social media. Is is the best way for me to share art? There's two ways I can think of doing it. Go to that group, create a post, share it, put blah blah blah. Or do I create the post in my company page and then I share that post in that group? Is that the better way
that's
to do it?
That's a great question. So Facebook actually does throttle back sharing from other pages. So if you were to create the art and the text and whatnot on your own personal page or company page, let's
Company
say,
page, yeah.
and then you were to share it to another group, that post would have very limited visibility. So it's
Within
always
that group?
best. Correct. So
Oh.
some people may see it, but it'll be very limited compared to if you did the exact same post in that group as like
Oh.
the origin. Um, so
The,
Facebook actually does
interesting.
throttle shares.
That's good to know because the one benefit I saw was I think Jurassic Parts did that because right on that one post it had a like button for that Jurassic, not just for that image, but
Uh-huh.
for Jurassic Parts, as if you
Right.
wanted to like their that. But maybe they weren't a company. Maybe that was a group. Maybe they had another group. Maybe it's different
Well,
from group to group or something. I don't
I
know.
guess I may be misinterpreting what you're asking, but there is no share button in a group. You can't
Yeah, you're right.
share
Oh yeah.
something
So
typically, at least you can't
yeah,
typically,
yeah.
unless it's a public group. And even then, there's a lot of content like a poll. If you try to share a poll in a public group to another group, the person can only see it if they're a part of the first group, otherwise it's going to say
Okay.
content not display or
Okay,
whatever.
so then that's good to know. All right, so that's what I'm gonna do for now. Now, one thing I don't know if you've caught up in the series of what I've been doing or seen it or whatnot, but what I think this is a good idea because I'm trying to find nice, fun ways to release my content, and so I
Mhm.
just haven't found a way to put a question around it. So that's my next challenge is what I gotta put on myself. But I have characters in my game, and so and I got the art, so I'm revealing the art, and I put some other art around it as if it's in a folder, and it's because it's a very spy-like theme kind of thing
Mhm.
and I call it Meet the Characters of Mind Management. And then we wrote up a bio of the character and just kind of put it in a thing, and that's it. It's just kind of like a little bio of the character, what they kind of talking out of
Mhm.
game and in game, what can they do as far as how they work, and then the picture of their card with the art and all that. And I've posted that on my company page, and I've shared it in a few groups here and there, and it's gotten okay response, but not
Mhm.
nothing bonzo because I'm not engaging them, I'm not saying anything because I don't really know what to say. I think maybe once I have released all four of my agents characters, I could then maybe post all four of them and do a similar thing Jurassic Parts did. Which one do are you interested in the most, or something like that you like the most?
Yeah, it's I tend to find thematic questions are really fun. Things that are completely ridiculous. Like for example, you have secret agents. I remember actually seeing that one of those posts.
Mm,
There was a female character that anyway, so you've got
true.
secret agents. Maybe a question like, what would you be really good at if you were a secret agent? Like
That's awesome.
what skill would you like? What would your
If you had
skills
or if you
be?
had a psychic
Or
ability,
right?
because
Yeah,
they
there you
all
go.
say, cool.
So,
See, look
or
at
if
this. This is
you,
great.
yeah, there you go. Like if
How
you
much
did
are you
have a psychic
charging per hour
ability,
on this
about
consulting
a
fee?
thousand dollars, I
Exactly.
figured.
This is great.
Yeah, just flat fee. Don't worry about it. I'll bill you later.
Hmm.
So I feel like something like that that's more fun. Um, that's what tends to just engage people. They love to interact with silly things like that. Um,
Okay, so now
even something timely as far as the time of the year, like it's New Year's, the day after tomorrow. So maybe one of those things with, what's your New Year's resolution? Wrong answers only.
right, right,
Something
right.
like that. If you were a
or
spy,
put
what
a
would your New Year's
spy. Yeah,
resolution?
exactly. Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go.
Oh,
So,
that's great. Okay, now I'm on the right track now. This is great. Another thing I've been doing is in the last couple of weeks, I've pretty much been researching all sorts of blogs and podcasts, and I'm trying to reach out to as many that have a history of having guests on, and I'm just putting my name out there, and it's kind of
mhm.
shameless in a way, but if I know anything about podcast creators, they're always looking for more guests to be on their show.
Yeah.
So I'm put myself out there and saying, hey, and not just for this, but because I'm also a designer, I've got a bunch of games that are coming out right now or within the next couple months
Hmm.
that are making a big splash. Do you want to have me on your show or whatnot? So I'm doing that in an effort, and I definitely got some response already to that. So that's I think something that everyone can do as far as putting. Now to do that, I made sure I had all the art. Like I had a little media kit ready. I created a press release with quotes from me and Sen and the whole shebang, so they could just kind of. And I've already saw one site just today. I saw a Spanish site translated to Spanish and posted the whole thing. I could see that they're like, oh, there's my quote, and I couldn't read it, but I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty wild that they did that. Any comments or thoughts about that process about reaching out? Like I'll pretty much be interviewed by anybody that wants to interview me because that's one more
Right.
person that's going to hear my story.
Right, absolutely. I think that that is a very underutilized tool in the publisher's or even the game designer's toolkit, because there are websites that I shared a story on the Board Game Design Lab that I'll share here. Is that I had one client that had a successful Kickstarter and was in the last week of their Kickstarter, and the very first time they ever had a site talk about them, they ended up getting 80 backers from that one site, that one article.
I remember, yeah.
And it was the only one that they did that, and it was their first project. So some of it was bandwidth, other parts were, I guess other component of the reason that that was their only site that they had talk about them was because they didn't know that that was a thing that they could do, and probably they may have been a little afraid to reach out to sites. And it's super important. But I would say that the pitching game, because in my day job, if you will, in my marketing agency, I pitch people all the time building links. So the goal is, I have a client that's a garage door company. I want Home and Garden magazine to put a link to the garage door company's website because that's a really highly reputable link that is very difficult for the competition to get, that is going to be in a very relevant niche, and Google's going to say, wow, that's a great link, I'm going to rank you up on Google. That's kind of the idea. But in order to do that, I have to find a writer and I have to pitch them, typically an editor or whatever of the website. And what I find is, quick tips for pitching: make it you focused. If it's all about me and what benefits me, then people are just immediately going to get turned off. And
Oh,
unless they're
you
really
being
desperate,
them.
right?
You being them.
Yes, yes, you
Okay.
focused, as in
Not
like,
me. Okay.
yeah, right, right, right. As in, yeah. So if Andrew is trying to pitch Jay, then I want to share all about how it would benefit Jay. I'll use an
Awesome.
example from
Yes,
myself.
please. Please.
I am pitching ludology because ludology is amazing, and I feel like I have a topic that would be really cool that's relevant to Deliverance, my game. It's religion in board games, and I know that that tends to be a pretty touchy subject, and that's why I think we should talk about it, because it's going to be so fun. I mean, of course, we've got all sorts of like, Greek religion and, all this fun Greek god stuff. And then you've got like, maybe real religions that people have and how people have done it right or wrong or whatever.
Hmm.
And it's all about the way I'm trying to pitch, and who knows if I'll be successful or not. I've had a little bit of response from Gilhova, but um, so the conversation is at least going. But the idea is that if it was about me and that it would help my board game
Hmm.
sell more copies, I would immediately be crumpled up. I'm a nobody, right? It's like crumpled up and throw that paper away or throw the email away. And but because it's all about, hey, I think this would add value to your listeners, and I'm an avid
Yeah.
listener of the podcast. I try to contribute other places too, and so um, it's all about them and how it can help them.
Yeah.
Um,
I like
and
it.
just,
That's great.
yeah.
I
So,
gotta put myself in that perspective when I'm because it is really a lot about me because I'm like, here's what I offer. Does this interest you? I gotta find a way to rephrase it to be like,
In fact,
Yeah.
that's actually a good part of the pitch. It's like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I've done. You've produced 11 you've designed 11 games and you're working on a 12th, and you know I feel like I would be relevant to you
Yeah, that's
because
great.
so you posted these three blog posts, and I just think this would be a nice, you would be able to kind of continue that momentum with this fourth blog post, or
So really commenting about something that they've done to show that you've
that's
actually are
right.
a fan of their
Yep. It's
creations. Yeah.
or at least that you know a little bit about it.
Yeah.
I mean, even
Right.
if it's just looking at a subject line of articles that they've written, or a subject of a podcast that they've talked about, it's like,
Right.
hey, one time you brought a guy on that designed a whatever. So,
Okay.
that's yeah.
That's great. All right. I have three last questions for you, but they might, go into different corners. Let's see what happens.
All right.
Um, so obviously being a small company, and I imagine anybody watching these videos are going to be startups and, how to start your own board game company.
Yeah.
Um, either people like didn't even think about adding any marketing money to their budget, or they have a little bit of money and they just don't know what to do with it because there's so many ways to spend your money from a marketing perspective. And I'm not even talking about the mandatory stuff, which I believe the mandatory stuff is paying previewers and reviewers, whatever you want to call
Mhm.
them, to review your game or overview or rules or whatever those videos that you're going to do. That's mandatory. You have to that's I don't even consider that part of the marketing budget really. That's it is, but
Right.
so besides that,
Hmm.
whatever I had, and I know on the podcast you were saying like, you should have a $500 would be probably a good amount. But now I don't like, do I spend that on a BGG ad? And I know you talked about making sure it's the appropriate type game for the BGG audience, board game geek audience. But then I talk about Facebook, and it's like, wow, Facebook is so. You were talking about putting as much your bandwidth and how much you can. And as soon as you started talking about A/B testing, I started to not tune out, but like my
Yeah.
my mind started to
It's
explode
like
because I'm
that
like,
sounds really hard, right?
it sounds hard and the
Yeah.
timing, and I don't. It feels like you have to have an artist like sitting right beside you to do an A and a B, and then you get some
Hmm.
tests, and then do some more. Like it just feels like a lot of like. And my artist that I have isn't right beside me. He's a well-known New York's bestseller, New York Times
Hmm.
best-selling author and artist. And I'm like, I don't want to bug him for all these little things. Not that they're
Right.
little. Maybe I'm not thinking about it right, but I don't know. My question is, what do little companies do to really maximize their dollars? Is there things that I should be doing now, 2 months out, that are either cheap or free that I should be doing, or maybe I'm already doing the cheap and free stuff, or how do I spend my $50, my $100 here and there to maximize it? Should I be spending it now? Should I be spending it a month from now? Should I be spending it during the campaign? Not during the campaign. I know that one's for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, to go in reverse order, the any company that solicits you after your Kickstarter begins is a company you should throw into file 13, the trash can. So don't even worry about the people that contact you afterward, unless you want to lose money. And the thing about marketing is you can lose a lot of money really quickly in marketing. Just take a few $100 bills and burn them because that could be the result, right? No results.
That's what it feels
So
like sometimes.
yeah, so there are a couple of things that I would plan at the very least. First of all, it's essential that you have a good day one. And I've talked a lot about that.
Yep.
You need a good day one because if you don't have a good day one, your trajectory of your campaign is going to be poor. So let's assume that we have enough of an audience, enough people that are interested. You've done your homework with your friends and family and kind of prepped them and that sort of thing so that you're gonna have you're gonna fund you're pretty confident that you're gonna fund. So so Facebook, a lot of what we do with Facebook ads in particular is build that audience to make sure that you fund like day one or day two. So other types of ads, like you mentioned, like Facebook banner ads, of course, Board Game Geek and Kick Track and Reddit ads, and you name it. I mean, there are a million things.
And
The
various blogs and websites that are board game related, they're all asking for
Right,
money. If you want to be for a week,
right.
we'll put your banner up.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. And then 2 weeks we'll give you a bonus, whatever.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's almost like you're playing a slot machine, like hoping that you get results out of it.
And you try to look at some. They give you their numbers if you ask for them, and some are
Hmm.
like 500, views in a month or whatever. And
Right.
it's like, how can I justify putting a banner on a site that gets 500 views a month, or
Right.
whatever?
Right. So I think that the first thing that I would pay for is I would pay for traffic to my Kickstarter. So I'm not paying necessarily for a banner on a website. I'm paying for traffic to my Kickstarter.
Explain.
So the whole Kickstarter algorithm is such that when you launch your project and then it gets people to go there because they know who you are and they were waiting for it or whatever, it's going to rank your project in Kickstarter's algorithm. So it's you're in somewhere with the board games, let's say tabletop games. And maybe you've got like the big project doing $1 million up here at the very top, and then you're somewhere like in the middle. Well, the more people that you have going to your project page, the higher you're going to rank in that algorithm. And if you've looked at a Kickstarter dashboard of a Kickstarter that's going, you will see tabletop discovery, advanced discovery. You'll see search as a source of backers, and in the Kickstarter backend. And these are specifically from people, and this is why companies, no matter how much people try to move away from Kickstarter, Kickstarter has a huge organic traffic base that of gamers looking for games to back. So that's why I could never go to Indiegogo, because they don't have that organic traffic base. So
Hmm.
you can, by sending more people, more warm bodies. If you made, let's say we spent $1,000 on Facebook ads and sent, whatever it is, 5,000 people or 2,000 people to your Kickstarter, and then none of those people backed, which is terrible. You would have 2,000 people that would, in essence, pump up your organic ranking on Kickstarter, and that would get you backers. So
Interesting.
it'll get you eyeballs.
But now that
Um,
sounds like you're marketing during your campaign, because your campaign has to be live for that to happen.
that's correct. So what I'm saying is
Yes.
there are banners, for example. You need to book banners, reviewers and banners and other things like that in advance.
Hmm.
So there are really kind of two components to the Kickstarter, the way I see it, and from a very bird's eye view. You have two components. You have the pre-Kickstarter effort to make sure that you fund, and that goes through about launch day, maybe the day after launch day.
And that's always guiding and directing them to your email sign up,
Yeah, your email sign up, your Facebook group,
Kickstarter
you
preview
can,
page.
the Kickstarter preview page, your Twitter account,
But but
that
if
kind
you
of
had to
stuff.
rank them, like I'd imagine email sign up is number one, because then you have that as a customer for other things.
Yeah, you won the right to guarantee that they're going to at least see your subject line, whereas Twitter, if you get
Right.
a Twitter follower, they may or may not see whatever you
Right.
write.
Okay,
So
cool.
yeah. So for me, the email list is kind of the major one. It's the most valuable asset that a company owns at a
Okay.
certain point because
Okay.
of the quantity of emails that you have. And so it tends to be very powerful. For me, I send an email out and I get so I send an email like a newsletter, and I get anywhere from 30 to 40% of the people that are on my list open it. And then
Mm,
I send so I duplicate that email and then I send to all the people that didn't. So let's say 40% open, 60%
interesting.
didn't. I create just a few days later and resend to those people that didn't open it. I get another 20% of those people. So
Does
60%, 50 to
MailChimp offer that
60%.
service?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, great.
Um,
I didn't know
it's
this.
easy. You do what is called replicate your email, and it just duplicates all the things are the same. Just make sure you don't, like, if you set to post to your social media, that you turn it off on the second one. Otherwise
But then
you'll
is there a setting there to say only send to those that didn't open or something like that?
yeah, so you can send to a group or segment instead of, it says like there are a couple of
I
different,
see.
and this is this way in a lot of email
Great.
programs. So you send to like your entire list, just click that and then change it from your entire
Wow.
list to everyone that did not open the campaign you just sent out. And it's going to blast everybody else. So on mobile, you can do it really easily. You can, I forget what it's called. In fact, I could probably look it up, but there is a one-click like resend
Wow.
on the mobile app for
Oh,
MailChimp.
interesting.
So
Oh,
it's
cool.
really easy.
That's great. Okay,
Yeah.
so just to kind of summarize this, because I just want to, if you had to rank the importance of that $500, because you're saying send people to the Kickstarter,
Mhm.
but so what does that mean? So does that mean I'm going to be booking banners maybe on Board Game Geek, or whatever the group or Facebook group or whatever site
Hmm.
that I think has my audience
Hmm.
for the day it launches or the week it launches.
So, again, my philosophy is you have two reasons you spend on marketing. The first reason is to make sure that you fund, and that happens. You actually like you pay for a Facebook ad before your Kickstarter launches versus after. Like paying for Facebook ads after does have merit, but before is the essential time that you have. It's like the golden opportunity to build your email list so that when launch day comes, or rather
Yeah.
as you ramp into launch day, you can send an email letting people know it's 2 weeks away, it's 1 week away, it's tonight or it's tomorrow, and then right as you launch, another email goes out and says, "Hey, we're live," and the whole time in all of those emails, you're directing people to your Kickstarter preview page and that kind of thing to make sure that Kickstarter hits them and your emails hit them and they back right away. But so there are marketing tactics that you would take to so anything that you pay for that goes into pre-marketing, there is I mean, there are precious few things that I have found that actually generate results. The first thing is organic work in Facebook groups, like we've been talking about, or Twitter or Instagram, like whatever you're very good at, and whatever you love using, you can find a way to bring people in. There was this huge dice Kickstarter where it was like I want to say like reflective dice, really cool D20s and that kind of thing that made like $1.5 million. And it was their first project, but they started with a very viral Twitter following. And that's kind of how they got going. So it's very possible to to use a social media uh, platform that's other than Facebook to make
Gotcha.
this happen. But what I will say is that Facebook ads they work. And if you build them right, you can set your ad up, and then you can give it
You
a
just keep
daily
filter. You
budget and
keep filtering. You said this in your interview with Gabe. You just kind of keep filtering so that you have
Mhm,
the very targeted core that you want to target. So the more
mhm.
specific people. That's good. You want to get it down to like 100,000 or lower or something of a audience.
It depends. You can have
Sure, sure, of
more and
course.
or less. But the building blocks of a Facebook group, or I'm sorry, a Facebook ads targeting pre-Kickstarter. So you're sending to your landing page. You may send to a Kickstarter preview page, but I prefer the landing page because that's where you get the email.
Yeah.
So they have to like Kickstarter because they're going to go to Kickstarter. They have to know what that is, um, or they're going to be a low chance they'll back comparatively. So they have to like Kickstarter. They have to also like board games. You can lump strategy games and board games together. Um, and then the third thing is that they also have to like whatever it is that maybe for junk art, they'll be like artists or, whatever.
Dexterity. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, some interest that may key them into, like for me,
Got it.
for Deliverance, they like the Bible, or something like that.
Right,
That's
right,
going to
right.
be maybe, gamers that know Kickstarter that like the Bible, Christian fantasy dungeon
That's
crawler.
perfect. That's your perfect audience.
Right, or maybe World of Warcraft, something like that.
Gotcha.
Could also work as an alternative because it's a
Okay.
dungeon crawl. So that's before Kickstarter. I would say for people with larger budgets, I have seen of quite a lot of people use Board Game Geek for the ads when their campaign is live, and some people say it makes no money, other people say it did well for them, others say it broke even. But I've seen very few companies leverage Board Game Geek before their campaign goes live. But the ones that do, I actually really like that because in marketing, really advertising, you need to touch someone rather you need to I feel like I'm just gonna say X-rated things. Like you need to expose your project to
Seven times? Is
yeah,
that the number?
that's correct. And so if the first time I've heard of you is when you're a week into your Kickstarter, it's
Hmm.
less likely that I'm going to back. I may hit the save button, which a lot of people do, because that's the first time they heard about your thing and they want to see how it develops.
Exactly.
But the people that have heard about it before, they have a decision to make, and a lot of people will plan on backing your thing. Like, I have people saying, "Oh, I'm planning on backing Deliverance next year because they know about it."
Yeah, that's
Well, the
interesting.
more people that know about it beforehand, the more people will back you on day one,
Yeah,
and
that's good.
The
Maybe
more
I'll
people that join.
see. Maybe I'll try the week or the week 2 weeks before launch and make an ad about that coming next week or 2 weeks. Blah blah
Yeah, so
blah.
something like that I think is
Yeah,
under leveraged tool.
yeah. Okay.
And I personally plan on using that technique for my game.
Okay.
Um, and then when you do launch is kind of this other component, like when you go live, you have your reviews, your previews and that kind of thing, which you had to organize in advance. Banners and giveaways are two things that I think we could talk about because
That
so
was my next
banner.
question.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was,
Yeah,
well,
go
specifically
ahead.
like, well, it's tied into Gleam. Should I be using Gleam? I have contest ideas. I'm thinking in January, I don't know how long contests should run for, a week, a month. A month seems way too long, but a week.
Hmm.
And sometime in January, I want to run a contest. And I thought a good idea, because I have sample copies of all my games I've designed, is make a 12 games that I've designed with Sen and me, saying, look, if you want to, or if you're excited about Sen and Jay's next game, why don't you take a look at their previous games, and you can win one of these 12 things, and I'll put it on Gleam and hopefully get a bunch of emails and do the Gleam thing. And then the next month in February, do a giveaway, a deluxe version of the actual game that is up for grabs.
Yeah,
As your thoughts on Gleam and using Gleam as a contest
yeah.
manager?
Sure. So, first of all, I like Gleam as a contest manager. I think it's really cool. Some basics about Gleam, the things that people do to earn entries. So, for those that don't know, you use Gleam as a program that helps you um, get more people to like your Facebook page or your sign up for your email list or, like your Board Game Geek page, that kind of thing. Maybe you ask questions and assign a certain number of entries to each one of these things. Maybe if they like your Facebook page, they get 1 point. If they join your Facebook group, maybe they get 2 points because joining a Facebook group is more valuable.
Right,
Maybe join your email list, they get 10 points or
right,
entries. And so, keep it focused to things that benefit you, really things that allow you to, two things that either allow you to win the right to communicate with someone. They like your
mm-hmm.
board game geek, then they subscribe, then you're able to they get notified by forum posts and that kind of thing. um so that's the first one. The second one is help them absorb information that will help them make a buying decision. So ask them questions, give them like 2 entries if they can tell you what the bad guy's name is or something
Sure,
like that,
sure.
because that means they have to read your game's content and they're going to read in some of the theme and figure out like what it is and where you're at. And
That alone might be go. Oh, I didn't know that about this game. I'm now intrigued
right,
about the game. Great, great.
that yeah, so
I
those
didn't know you
those are
could do
really
that
great
about that.
ways.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah, you
I know
can.
you want to make the barrier as low as possible to make people be able to enter. So you get
Mhm.
minimum. I'll click here and I'm entered. But I could see how some people who are super excited about the prize would
Mhm.
do as many things as they could to get as many ballots as they could.
Right. And I think that you're already doing something well, which is you have more than one prize potential winner. That I think 11 is quite a lot. I would say maybe 3 to 5 is good.
Oh, I
You
see.
could even run 2 contests
Oh,
with
that's a
the
good
assets
idea.
you've got. If the first one goes well, then awesome. But I'll tell you, I think I might have said something about this on Board Game Design Lab, but I I ran a contest for a free iPad and it was legit. And I had
Yes,
nine
six entry,
entries.
9 entry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. It's the number probably always changes, but it was under 10 entries. It was pretty
That's so
awful.
sad.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like it's relevant. I could at least spin it that it's relevant. These other games, because it's from the same makers who's making this next game.
Mhm.
Obviously, the next contest of winning an actual mind managed one, you're not going to get it for like a year. But I
Mhm.
think some people will still be like, that's the game I want. I'm excited.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
I think that's the way to go. So okay, cool. And then Gleam, if it has many different ways to sign up. There's a free option which gives you nothing. Like you
Mhm.
can't get emails for free. So the
Yeah.
very next step you can do emails. Are you familiar more with this? Like, should I just go the basic one for this first one and go I mean, basic meaning the lowest priced one that gives you email access? Because I don't, those ones that are higher up, the features that they offer, I'm like, I don't even know what they
Right.
do. Like, it's a lot of, again,
Right.
bandwidth. I can't to research and figure out how to take advantage of all those things. I'm like, I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah. So what I would say is the way that I've used Gleam, we use the competition plan, right? The run contest type thing, right?
Okay.
And so for the competition plan, they have this like $10 entry, and I don't think that email is even available then.
I think you're
I
right.
could,
Yeah.
but the one that I've
Like
used
45
is,
bucks or something.
yeah, it's like $49 a month, and you've got the first thing. In fact, let me go there real quick. I have
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I have a tab open just to refresh myself. Yeah, there you go. The Pro plan for $49 a month. The very first thing listed is Pro email integration. Like basically, it integrates with Mailchimp. That's what you want. You want it
I need
to,
that. Yeah.
yeah, so it's really important that you make it really easy for somebody to join. And so they get you for $50. It basically, you can run it for a couple of weeks and then shut it off, and you only pay $49, and that's
Right.
totally okay.
And what
Um,
is a good, like, the time for a contest? Is there
I
a
would
week, two
say
weeks?
2 weeks is solid.
Okay.
And now it all depends on how you're gonna fill the contest. How are you gonna get warm bodies to the contest? So the more you have, like Disney could run a contest for like 6 hours, and it would be like, wow,
Through the roof. Yeah.
yeah. So for us, as normal human beings with souls, we have to we have to find ways to encourage people and give people some time to hear about it, and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So you'll be posting in Facebook groups. Hopefully, you have others like Sen will post and maybe talk about it on his podcast,
Maple
Meeple
syrup,
Syrup,
right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, things
Okay.
like that.
And spread it out so that every day you're posting in a different group, blah, 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 like we talked about.
Yeah,
All
totally.
right. This is great. So that's coming. That's coming. I'm actually have a photo shoot this week coming up where I'm going to take pictures. And now that I talked to you, I'm going to do them in different bundles so that I think that's a
Awesome.
better way to do it. To do a group of three or four, another group of three or four, maybe three groups of four or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, that's
Yeah,
cool. That's
because
cool.
that way people really any way you want to do it. I think 11 is so many that maybe they don't get the right game that they wanted, and that's a reason. That's actually something I was looking at the games that you've worked on, and some of them I'm like, yeah, I want that, but others are like, well, I'm not really an RPGer. I don't really play like tabletop RPGs.
Hmm.
So, depending on the type of game, I would
I
be
saw that was a really
super.
clever way of you of sidelining the like. I don't want that crappy game. No, I'm
Actually,
kidding.
you
I'm
know
kidding.
what? There was one time I had the opportunity to play D&D 5e, and I asked if I could play, and they were like, "Shut up, noob, get out of here." And that was it. That was
But
all.
you know what? You know it's funny that you say that because the D&D game that is referenced is not a
Uh-huh.
D&D game. It's called Rock Paper Wizard, and it's a party game that you cast hand gestures at each other.
Oh,
It
that's
just
awesome.
it's just in the world of D&D.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Anyways,
So now I want it.
okay, yeah. There you go. So the last question I have for you, and this is the longest episode in history of time for us. Um, is there a way to activate my audience that I have, and I do have some people that are already passionate, and I have an idea. So, but I'll let you chime in to help spread the word for you. And now, do you just wait and hope that they do? And just hope that, or is there a way that I can reach out to them and say, hey, are you interested in being like a social media ambassador or whatever you want to call them and like start, I don't know. I don't want to, hope that's not shystery. I'm trying to make it very
No,
quick.
but
Like it's
I
somebody who
understand what
is
you're
passionate.
saying.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so the reality, or rather the theory is that when somebody else is really, really excited about a thing, they are going to share, and it's going to be not salesy at all because they're excited, and they they don't have to have any gloves on either. If somebody's like, "Oh, you're just trying to sell me," they can say whatever they want in response to that person, where you, Mr. Publisher, have to be very nice. So and so they will get engagement in whatever they post, no matter, and it's usually ends up being positive. So you do want to activate your fans, and I guess philosophically, theoretically, as I was saying, you want to make sure that um I mean, there's a lot of value. I don't know, how do I say this? Maybe you need to edit this part. I'm like trying to think about how to say it. So theoretically, you've got these fans that if they were to post instead of you, it would be a whole lot more just engaged with because it's so organic, and maybe the places they're posting are places that people know who they are. um I one time I had a person post in solo board gamer group, and I was like a new member. It was like my second week in there, and I had the little hand, like the I'm a new guy hand. And so anything I wrote is just going to be like, to the bottom of the barrel right away. But this person posted, I'm so excited for this game. And they linked my website, deliverancethegame.com or whatever. And I got 150 email signups in 4 hours. And that was
Yikes.
it. It was they used a link, which you shouldn't do, and they said, I'm so excited for this game, and that's it. And people knew who they were, and a bunch of people liked it. A
Right.
bunch of people linked Banjos and, Deliverance, the
Yes,
whole,
yes, of
movie.
course.
So that was a fun thing for me to wake up to in the morning. It was 150 emails and about 30
Oh, that's great.
Banjos. Yeah. So so
But is it, I don't know, is it wrong? Is it okay to actually reach out to people that that aren't like, I don't know them, but there are people that are liking every post that I send out, that are commenting every once in a while. I'm like, this looks great. Wow, what a cool thing. Can I reach out to them and be like, hey, do you want to, or is that getting now shystery?
Well, so I tend not to directly ask. However, what I will say is that if you so one time I was at a like a multi-level marketing type event, and it was a huge event, lots of people, and they asked, how did you hear about it? And some people said online, and some people said, they were shown the business plan, and then 90% of the people that showed up because someone else asked them to be there. So that direct ask, like when you get personal with somebody in a Facebook message, if you are friends with that person, then it is much more likely that they will help you, simply because helping you would help you.
Hmm.
Joel Osteen said that a smile is more influential than giving somebody $5,000. So and what I've found in as a marketing company, people want to help those that they love, or that they at least respect, their friends and that kind of thing. Like, people are always down to help, not for money, but for just to be helpful and to be a bro. You know what I mean?
I
Um,
I watched the movie Dolomite Is My Name on the weekend. Have you seen that?
no, actually, no.
I didn't know it was this kind of movie, but that's exactly the kind of movie it is. Exactly what you're just saying there about how this guy really wants to make this thing, and he's passionate about it. And I just thought it was a totally different movie going in. I was so happy that it's just about people. You just see people coming out of the woodwork wanting to help this guy. And
uh
it was great. It's a great movie.
That's
But I agree
awesome.
with your mentality, and that's how I've lived my entire life, as far as people are addicted, not addicted, people are attracted to success, or people aspiring to succeed.
Right. Yes. And I feel like um as a general like blanket, what you can do is you can share something that you want others to share. That's what you should be sharing. So you should be sharing and then teaching others as kind of a general group how to help you. I think that the email list has been very, very good for me to share, hey, like my Board Game Geek page, that will help the game. Bring your friends to like that page, have others, join this or sign up for the emails. That's really going to help us grow. It's going to help us have a really great Kickstarter, and, have them like whatever it is that you want them to like. And that is something that you can do without being shystery at all, because you want your project to succeed, and you have to make the assumption that your fans also want your project to succeed. And so this is how the fans can help you do that. So a lot of people use social goals during the campaign. I would
Hmm.
say social goals is a great concept. You don't have to call them that, but, things that will help, you teach your fans what is helpful to you, and some people will volunteer themselves. Others that have a particular relationship that you would like to leverage, if I'm being selfish, or I don't know, like shystery, like as shystery as I get, that's probably the shysteriest way I could have put that. But you have somebody who has the respect of a group of people. An influencer is really what it is. It's influencer marketing, which is going to be huge here in a little bit with Instagram. Um, you ask them personally. So you say,
Yeah, okay. All right.
can you help me? You know?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. It's true. It's what I did for the Fail Faster campaign because I couldn't send my journal out to get reviews because it's not a game, and so I sent it out to a bunch of well-respected designers around the world and asked for their thoughts. I said I'm going to tell you selfishly. I'm giving this to you so that I can get a quote from you. But if you don't have a quote, don't worry about it. And then I
Mhm.
followed up in 2 months and said, if you have a quote, let me know. Otherwise, no worries. And all of them sent a quote back. And now that was my testimonials for my campaign, which did wonders. So
That's
that's great.
awesome. Very cool.
Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. This is fantastic.
No problem. It's my blessing to help. And nobody gets away talking to me for less than an hour. So I
So
I
true.
apologize.
Wow, that was fantastic for all of you that made it through this far. Congratulations. I found that absolutely informative and useful, and I'm probably going to go back and re-listen to it myself to get all the information again because there's so much valuable information in there that I am going to personally follow. That's it for me. Happy New Year to everybody, and I'll see you again next year, or maybe it's this year by the time you're watching this, probably. Take care. Bye-bye.